As we talk to people about who God is, folks want to know, what is the character of God? What is God like? Because when you enter a new relationship with a person, one of the things that you need to understand about the person that you are getting to know is, what is their character? What makes them excited? What is part of the center of their being? What will they do? Where are their parameters? Where are their limits? What will they not do? And as you get to know a person, it is important to come to a place where you understand their character and that they understand your character as well. So with this, the encouragement is, if you are going to end up exploring who God is, and when I talk about God, I'm talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm talking about the God of the Hebrew Scriptures. I'm talking about the God that sent Yeshua to live with us, the God who is proclaimed as being the Father who has sent the Son who has lived a perfect life amongst us, who'd had a ministry for 3 or 4 years in Israel and would proceed to be our sacrifice, be executed, and then be raised from the dead, and who would be proclaimed by the Jewish apostles and would end up ultimately spreading a message that would move around the world. So that is the God that we're talking about. And when Scripture writes about God, one of the things that Scripture comes to again and again is that God, as he enters into relationship with us, he wants the relationship with us more honestly than we want the relationship with him. But the other thing about God is that God, when he relates to us, makes promise to humanity. He makes promise to individual people, and he makes promises that can be trusted. And so the reason that you can trust that God will be kind and gracious to us is because God promises that he will do specific things. And this relationship of promise goes back to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. These are known as the patriarchs in Genesis. And God makes promise first to Abraham, and then Abraham learns how to live out being a person who has received a promise from God and is seeking to live in relationship with a God who is invisible, but a God who has promised specific things. And if you go through the history of the Hebrew Scriptures, you will find that people encounter God and that God makes promise to people. And that God is reliable, and that when God has promised something, he's going to do what he has promised. And from generation to generation, the patriarchs and their offspring understood that they were a people who had received promise from God, and that it was a good thing that God had promised, and that God had promised good things to them, and that they could trust the promise of God. So you say, why is it important to me that long time ago, thousands of years ago, God made promise to people who are now dead? Part of the reason that it is important that God keeps his promise is because if you are going to have a relationship with God, if there is a spirituality, you need to understand, you need to know that God is reliable, that God is truthful, that God does not change. He doesn't make a promise to you and later go on, well, I don't know about that promise that I made before. I'm not really so into it anymore. He is solid. He is reliable. He is truthful. He deals with integrity. He does not change. And part of our being a people who receive the promise of God is that we are going to grow to be more like God. Our character is not going to be unstable. Our character is not going to roll back and forth. We are not allowed to be a people who are not dependable, but we need to be a people who learn who God is, who receive his promise, who trust that God has said, and that God does not go back on his word. And over a period of time, what's going to end up happening is our receiving of God's promise, even though it might take a while for God to fully manifest all the things he intends to do, he promises, he delivers, he does what he says he's going to do. And the way that we honor God being someone who gives promise is we end up being a people of faith, or a people of trust, or a people who believe, yes, God said it, yes, God is reliable, yes, I know the character of God, whether it's through your personal experience, whether it's through your reading of Scripture, whether it's through a combination of those things, or whether it's through other things. But you come to a place where God can be trusted. And as God can be trusted, what ends up happening is you are a person who ends up receiving promise, encountering God, and then being a person who is transformed and changed by the fact that you trust him and that he's going to come through for you. Shalom.